The following is a production of Fenix Media. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the company or its advertisers and may contain language that's unsuitable for younger listeners.
Welcome to the Dogish podcast, the only podcast dedicated to dog parents and the topics, events, and personalities impacting their lives. My name is Jasen Arias, founder of Forever USA, the dog photography experience, and my giggly co-host today, as always, Miss Sylvia Wes, certified dog mom trainer extraordinaire. I always butcher this. Like you asked me to change it, and your waving messed me up today. Give me the official designation.
Pet expert, dog mom, and certified professional dog trainer. Jasen,
hey,
what am I gonna do with you?
No, nothing. I'm flustered from today. Today's upcoming episode was it was 2 hours long.
Super intense.
So like if you want to stick around and listen, you'll have to bump over to YouTube for the last hour of the show.
Spoiler alert, I cry again.
So we spoke with a pet communicator, Miss Cindy Hartzell. And she was amazing.
It might be Ms. She did say she was married.
Oh.
Let's just get into it.
Mrs. Do you know that they're trying to get rid of the whole Mrs. like, and I kind of agree with it. Like, I think we just need to get rid of that. Was one of the worst things to try and learn.
Also, I still get offended when someone calls me ma'am, even though like I technically am a ma'am, but I'm like, I'm a mess.
This intro is wandering.
I don't even have a bait. Let's just get into it with Cindy.
Let's just go hang out with Cindy. All right, off we go. Well, welcome to the show, Cindy. And like Sylvia mentioned, you are an animal communicator.
I am.
And what does that mean? Because I know when I was introduced to the concept, I was told that there's certain lingo that is best used to describe your profession and stay like non-offensive, or like I'm like trying to dance around it here a little bit. So help me stay on the right track.
Okay. So, I think that when animal communication started really becoming something that people were aware of, it was referred to as pet psychics. And for some reason, there's some interesting stigma around the word psychic, and
it is kind of a dirty word anymore, isn't it?
It's kind of crazy. I think it just stirs up a lot of uncomfortableness in people, not understanding how others can do that. And so psychic just, for some people, they're like, ooh, I want to know more. And others are like, oh yeah, you're just kind of really a whack job. I mean, I have literally been called a whack job. And so when I came out of the closet with animal communication, I myself steered away from pet psychic because I knew what I heard growing up with the word psychic before pet was ever put in front of it. Sure. So right. I like animal communicator. Okay. I like intuitive, animal intuitive communicator, so what is psychic really mean? What is the definition of that? And what it really means is you're communicating with another being on that intuitive level. And so when I teach animal communication courses, or when I'm trying to introduce it like I'm doing now, I try to help people understand that intuition is something we are all gifted with. I am not any more different. Well, okay, I'm not any more different than anybody else, except for the fact that that muscle in me is stronger than some of my other abilities. Like, you know, some people are naturals at tennis or swimming or speaking, you know, that's their gift. So for me, intuition has been something I've done all my life, but intuition is all of us. I mean, how many times have you been thinking about somebody? You just can't get them off your mind. And then you call them and they have an issue they're going through, or they're like, hey, I needed to call you. I wanted to invite you. Or the one that I love to share with people the most is parents. We're all born speaking intuitively. I believe that's the first language we speak. And that's how parents can be doing the dishes and know they have to run in and check on their infant all of a sudden because they've rolled over and they're up against the crib and they can't breathe, or you know intuitively what your toddler is saying by or an infant crying. You know what I mean? That's intuitive communication. And we all start to lose intuitive communication when we start being taught to use our words. And I'll never forget when my daughter was about 1.5 years old and I was a working mom and we had just gotten home from work and I was making dinner and it was hot summer day, and she comes in and she starts while I'm cooking, right? And I turn around to be a little frustrated and she's pulling on the refrigerator. And I'm like, Katie, you need to use your words. This is the refrigerator. And I opened the door and she started at an apple juice. And I'm like, no, apple juice. So it dawned on me at that moment, this is when we stop using that muscle and start using our voice.
Gotcha.
So long description to what animal communicator is really what it means.
No, it's great. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. And I have much more of a logical mindset, I guess you might say. And so really trying to figure out how that works in my world, and separating it from, I guess, what my definition of a psychic would be, or understanding. I'm just filled with gobs and gobs of questions at this point.
And we will get to those questions after this break.
Dear John, I'm leaving. Uncontrolled high blood pressure is serious, and I can quit whenever I want. Why can't we get back to when you checked on me? I don't want to leave, but remember, when I quit, you quit. Sincerely, your heart.
Listen to your heart and don't let it quit on you. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range today. For help keeping yours at a healthy range, text PRESSURE to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. Take one.
Behold the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the angry giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard, so you don't need to sell all your belongings and live in a commune.
These dungarees belong to all of us now, Tom.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman.
We need a new stuntman!
You just need FeedThePig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at FeedThePig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
I spend a lot of time in the backyard, and I'm the center of attention at summer barbecues. In '96, I made some of the tastiest s'mores. And in '09, it was me, your backyard fire pit, that accidentally started a wildfire when a summer breeze carried one of my embers into some dry brush.
Spark a change, not a wildfire. Visit SmokeyBear.com, brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Only you can prevent wildfires. My name is Lola Silvestri, and I'm going to be 95 this year. I was very independent. I fell, and I had to have Meals on Wheels. America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Hey everyone, let's all stop what we're doing and take a moment. You see, every moment can be kind of special. But they can be loud moments, goofy moments, dorky moments, it doesn't matter. Because every time dads like us take a moment like that to spend with our kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's take a moment to make a moment. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Fenix Media. Listen live and explore more great shows at fenixmedia.us.
All right, we're back. So Cindy, I think that's probably the most simple explanation of like communication in terms of like being a communicator, whether you're looking at someone who's like a medium who maybe is like communicating with the departed, and you're communicating with beings that essentially are still on our plane. They're just covered in fur and have four legs and 4 paws. So, but I think that just speaking to the fact that like we all have this innate intuition to understand even one another as animals, which we are, even without language, I think is a really kind of a great way to set this up, and has really changed the way I kind of think about it, because I'm as much as I like to think of myself as being spiritual, I have a challenge with the idea of like animal communication. It's the way you've described it. I'm like, oh, well, of course it's just a different communication. I mean, I understand dog body language as a dog trainer. It's something that I learned. So I guess it's kind of just more a step above that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, for all of us that work with animals are some of the best teachers for working on this muscle, because yes, we know their body language. Yet, how many times have you walked into a room and the dog is laying there? And if you're a trainer, how many times have you like walked up to a dog or a rescue and you look at them and you just get this knowing, like there's something wrong with this dog. This dog does not feel good. Or this dog is really afraid of something, and all they did was look at you. That's intuition.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think that, yeah, I totally agree. I think being a dog trainer, there's a significant amount of intuition, because you can't do it the same way for each dog. They're all different. They're all unique.
Right.
So does this, is this is this all animals or all beings? Like where does the communication start and stop?
It's all inclusive. I don't focus on people, and there's a story behind that. I'm more with animals, but we are all energy beings, which means, and everything around us is energy. And one of the ways it's easy to grasp that is, have you ever walked into a room and you're feeling pretty good? You walk into the room and all of a sudden you're in there for just a few minutes and you start getting agitated. You start getting irritated. You're just kind of like uncomfortable, and you don't know why, because you felt good when you walked in the room. Well, you're picking up on somebody's energy. Or have you ever had that person that comes up and they're just like, oh, how are you? Blah, 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 blah. And just like in your space and all over, just high energy. And when they leave, you're drained, or somebody comes in super depressed and sad and they talk to you and, you talk to them and then they leave feeling better and you're feeling drained. That's energy working in an energy way. So when we're communicating,
it's an exchange.
It's an exchange, yeah. So when you're doing intuitive communication, you're actually communicating on that plane. And intuitive communication comes in many forms. It can come in a visual, where you just see this animal experiencing something, like a place or somebody, or you hear it, like you're having that conversation that you have when you're on your way to go see somebody and you're going to have a meeting and you're playing that conversation out in your head. Well, it'll feel like that. You'll kind of feel like it's your own voice, or you'll have just a knowing. People will say, well, how do you know that? And it's like, I don't know. I just know it. And we've all had those moments, where something. It doesn't have to be about somebody or human related or dog related. You just know that it beyond a doubt. And that's intuition. So intuition plays out a lot of ways, but it's we communicate with one another across the plane. And Sylvia, I actually do communicate with animals who have passed on.
Ah.
A lot of clients do reach out to me and want to know, how are they doing? How was their passing? Was it the right time? Did we make the wrong decision? So I do work with both in their body and out of their body, because again, it's energy.
Right. And I mean, this is not to get very existential on all of our listeners, but it's my belief that if energy can neither be created nor destroyed, we're all just existing in some form here somewhere. So I don't know. It is just a matter of just reaching out. So take me through how you became an animal communicator. Like, what did you wake up one day and you're like, Lassie is talking to me and I need to tell Lassie's mom what Lassie's saying? Like, what happened?
I've communicated with animals my entire life. I had a pretty abusive childhood. And I think what helped me survive and be the person that I am today was my ability to communicate with animals. But when I was little, I can remember like 6 or 7 years old, we always had cats. I always wanted cats and dogs and horses and birds. And, I tried to befriend all the wildlife outside.
I can relate.
We had cats, and I remember sitting in the house and having company over and things like that. And I'm playing with the cat and I'm describing to people what the cat is saying. What's going on. And I remember hearing, wow, it's almost like she can hear what they're saying. And I remember the first time I heard that and was old enough to kind of understand that, I was like, well, can't you all? I mean, I was surprised that was a statement, because up until that point, I just assumed everybody could hear them. So I believe that was, part of what helped me survive my childhood. And then I grew up and became a veterinarian. I had gotten a horse when I was 11, became a veterinary technician. And I was always able to work with animals that others couldn't work with, and be able to give them minimal chemical restraint and help alleviate their fear. And then I had a client, I was shaving her little mini ponies up in Truckee, California. And we were working on the horses, and she said, "You're an animal communicator." And I said, "What?" And she said, "An animal communicator, a pet psychic. You talk to the animals." And I'm like, "Well, maybe." And she goes, "You need to read this book." So she introduced me to this book. now I'm not going to remember her name, but anyway, she was a pet animal communicator that had written a book, and I got it and started reading it. And I was like, oh my God, this is really a thing. There's actually other people out there that do this. Oh my, I am an animal communicator. So then I went to Southern California and studied with a communicator and took a couple courses with her. And basically she was like, you're already doing it. And what she helped me to understand was, one, the validation to give me the confidence, and two, taught me how to have some ethics around it, because I am being the voice for the voiceless and I have to honor them. So she taught me, those kind of things, the ins and outs of doing it professionally, as well as how, when I open up to communicate with an animal, we're kind of sharing energetic space. And when I'm done, there needs to be a separation. Otherwise, it's really taxing on me. And that's for all psychics, is you have to make that energetic connection. Being intuitive also has to do with a lot of being an empathic, where you feel a lot of what other beings are feeling. So you have to really be mindful that you don't take on other people's energy, because it can really be taxing for you. And I do have a story about that when I did finally come out of the closet and go professional with this.
Well, I want to hear about that. That's a great lead into another story.
Well, first of all, I am married to a veterinarian.
Okay.
Who is very scientific, and there's got to be the formula, and there has got to be an explanation for everything. And so when I finally decided to reveal to him, hey, I talked to the animals, and I'm going to start doing this professionally, and how do you feel about that for our veterinary practice? And he was, like, I don't really think I understand it, but it does make sense why you can do things that other technicians I've worked with cannot do. So that makes sense. So that was a little, it was uncomfortable, because it was like, oh God, how is he going to receive this?
Absolutely.
So then I started working. I met some gals who owned Scraps Dog Bakery in Reno. They don't own it anymore, but it was one of the first Scraps bakeries. And they asked me if I would come do communication sessions for so many hours on Saturdays. And so I was like, sure, that'd be great. And I was doing 15-minute sessions, and they were like, bam, bam, bam for the entire time. And when the first few times I did it, on the way home, I was exhausted. And then for a day or two, I would feel like I had the flu. I would feel like I had just been put through the ringer. And I finally called one of my spiritual mentors and said, this is what's going on. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong. And she said, are you clearly making a division, separating yourself from the energy of that animal after each session? And I said, no. And she said, well, you're just filling up yourself with everybody else's energy, and your body can't handle it. And so when I started doing that purposely after each session, literally saying, your energy is your energy, my energy is my energy, thank you very much. Huge difference. I could go all day long and almost be energized by the end of the day.
Wow.
Crazy.
All right. That is very, very fascinating. We're going to take a quick break. More when we get back.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. You can make a difference by dropping off a hot meal and saying a quick hello. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to
someone being bullied online, you can be a witness and make a difference by letting the world know it isn't cool and by letting your friend know you care. Learn more at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. But he's a part of me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. No time for tired. Nothing can disable this love. He needs me, but I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community. Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school, so I'm trying to break that barrier. My daughter, Brooklyn, was also a motivation for me to go back to school. Every day after work, went straight to school, and it paid off.
At age 26, Kareem finished his high school diploma.
I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week, she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
What if I told you that a tornado was going to happen tomorrow, right where you live? That it would touch down at exactly 3:17 p.m., and I told you the exact path it would take. You would, of course, prepare. You would talk with your loved ones, and you'd make a plan today. It's true, I can't tell you a tornado will strike tomorrow, but shouldn't you have a plan anyway? Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Fenix Media. Listen live and explore more great shows at fenixmedia.us.
So I think Sylvia knows, and I'm assuming you remember, Cindy. We were introduced to you because of a dog that was introduced to us during one of our show recordings named Lucy. And I know that Christy and Heather came and spent some time with you, and you shared a lot with them about Lucy. I think one of the things that I was really fascinated about was the amount of detail that you were able to share, like even that her owner would come and visit her still and all of these things. And so again, so I'm much more on your husband's like mind wave, like everything. I'm trying to put everything into place. Like, how does this work? Why does it work? And so it's a total complicated mess in my brain right now. And there's all these questions that I want to ask, and I don't want any of them to ever be like, they're coming from a bit of skepticism, but mostly from a lack of understanding. Right. And so there's things that like I want to ask, but I'm not trying to be offensive by any means. Like, for example, like how would you be able to know anything about a dog that has been with us, but you're not even spending time with them? Because that sounds like it's possible to do that as well.
Right. So for your little Lucy, we'll use her as the example. I did that communication session over the phone and had never met her. But the way that this happens, and again, I'm going to loosely touch on, it's all energy, right? So your wife is Christy.
Yep.
I was talking to Christy. So I'm connecting energetically with Christy. And now she's sharing with me that she has this dog, Lucy. Now, I could want to know, what does she look like, and this and that and the other thing. But the more that I do this, the more that doesn't matter. What I'm doing is I want to know her from the inside out. So once I connect in with Christy, and this is how I work with people, is I connect in with Christy, and then through Christy's being in your environment, I'm able to connect in with Lucy. Now, what's interesting about animals is when they find somebody that actually can hear them, they have a lot to say. Most of them. I mean, I have talked to some animals or tried to talk to some animals that will flat out say, I'm not talking. But with Lucy, it was easy for me to check in with her. Now, I could get a feeling of your environment, but I couldn't see your environment in detail. Like, I couldn't tell you how many rooms you had or what the decor in your house is or anything like that. What I could get a feel for was a house in a neighborhood with a backyard that had, if I remember right, 2 like accesses from either side of the house.
Okay.
Not just one side. And then I ask, once I feel into Lucy, I start asking some generic questions like, if I were to sit down with you and say, okay, Jasen, tell me why you keep doing that with your wife. I mean, really, why? What's going on? And, what is your background? You would be like, whoa, I'm not talking to you. I don't even know you, right? Sure. So I asked generic questions like, Lucy, can you tell me what you think about being here? Can you tell me what are some of your favorite things? So I open the dialogue with that and get them talking. And then I will share with that person what she's telling me. And what that does is it helps that person validate, one, for me, that I'm truly talking to Lucy. Right. Because I have worked with multiple dogs in a household and gone on in this conversation. And finally, the owner looks at me and says, that's not that dog, that's that dog. And I'm like, whoa, okay, I didn't do my correct prerequisite questioning, right? Like, what are your favorite things? What are you afraid of? Where's your favorite spot in the house? What's your favorite food? So I asked questions.
And so you're doing this like mentally though, right? So this isn't like speaking vocally. You're at some point making a connection and mentally asking these questions, or energetically. Okay.
Telepathically. That's the other word for psychic. It's telepathic communication. We are having the conversation in our head. Now, once I've established that connection, then it becomes a 3-way conversation. So the person asks me a question, I will quietly ask the animal, and then I will speak out loud what I'm getting, and that's evolved over the years. When I first started, I did it entirely different, but now it's like, I'm the mediator. I'm, the dog speaks dog and the human speaks human, and they don't know how to communicate. So I come in because I speak both languages. And so with her, she was able to tell me what her person was like and how she found your home, or he found your home. I was just sharing this story with my husband this morning, and I actually started crying. I mean, just like full on crying. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm getting so emotional, but it was just amazing how this man loved her so much. And he knew that he was ill. And she knew that he loved her and that he was ill. And he found her. He found you guys for her. And not only did he do that, but he didn't just dump her off there. He kept bringing her back and letting her get to know your dog through the fence. So that when that day did come that he actually slipped her inside your backyard, it was the best outcome for her. I have to tell you, Jasen, it was one of the most touching stories I have ever been able to learn from a dog. It was pretty amazing.
It was an incredible day. Like, it was rather surreal, and it was kind of cool because I'm getting to share this not only with you, but having you on the podcast. But Sylvia was living it with us. Like, we were, when I could hear the dogs barking and playing out back, and I thought they were barking at another squirrel up the tree or something. And I look out back and I see this black and white dog playing together literally 15 minutes before I have to come sit down with Sylvia on the podcast. So to kind of see it come full circle and hear a little bit on her story, I mean, it is a very, very cool and emotional event that has occurred over the last few months.
Yeah. And it was so amazing because it was hard for her. She missed him. He loved her dearly and she loved him. And he took the best care he could of her. But it was like she knew that you guys were good people because he chose you. And so she knew that she was going to be safe. And, he's still visiting. Because I checked in with her this morning when I was sharing with my husband, and I'm like, why am I so emotional? Is she not doing well? Because, when I'm telling the story, I'm kind of checking back in. And when I got that emotional for no reason, that will often be me picking up empathically the emotions of the other being. So I had to check in with her and make sure that she was okay. And she is okay. And he is still visiting. But interestingly enough, the visits are getting less frequent. That was a couple months ago, wasn't it?
Let's see. Billy was
something like that.
Yeah, a month and a half ago, about something like that. Yeah. But yeah, she seems happy. Like she's fit in. She didn't. Christy and I were just joking this morning. She could easily jump the fence that she has, and she hasn't ran away.
Yeah. No.
Which Sylvia, you should even recognize working with new dogs that they tend not to want to. Like when you bring a rescue dog home, they're a little bit harder to keep at the house because they're actively trying to get to
fight or flight is normal.
And Lucy's never had that. She's always been perfectly happy and stayed here.
That's because she knew she was coming there, Jason.
Yes.
Why don't you listen to Cindy? I'm so sorry.
Cindy.
I'm so sorry, Cindy. Jason has a really hard time listening.
That's okay. I'm hoping that by the end of this conversation that Jason will have a little bit more of an open feel to this. So you feel free, Jason, to ask me whatever you want.
So here's my general take on almost anything supernatural or otherworldly or anything like that. I don't believe that we have a understanding of hardly anything in the universe. There's so many things outside of our world. Like we tend to think that we're so smart and we have all this stuff figured out, but like I think we have just a fraction of sand on this earth, like figured out. We don't know anything. But then I do believe that we take that fraction of sand and use that to interpret all of these things that we don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the place that I come from. It's not from a lack of believing in the unexplainable. It's the lack of believing that we have enough information in us to explain the unexplainable, if that makes sense.
It does totally make sense, and that's an awesome place to be. That's better than being totally shut down to, if it doesn't have a formula and it can't actually be proven in a lab or scientifically, then it doesn't exist, I think over the last 15 years, as quantum physics has really begun to become more known and understood, it really is broadening us. But I agree with you. We think we're the wisest species, but look at our behavior based on some of the other species. We, in my opinion, as adults, we're wise. Some of us are wiser than others. We're intelligent, some more intelligent than others. But I think in the bigger scheme of things, we're still infants. We still don't really understand the magnitude of what we're living in, and I think personally, I feel like animals are here to help us, show us the way, if we're willing to listen.
I totally agree. I think, what, Jason and I agreeing on something? We better take a break before something happens.
Allison is perfect. She'd never tell you that. She's humble and perfect. She likes everyone. She even likes her untidy roommate's weird guinea pig. Allison, wait, are you texting and driving? Allison, no. That's the exact opposite of what I was just saying about you. Why, Allison? Why? Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
I'm Paul George of the Indiana Pacers. When I was 6, my days were spent playing basketball. When I was 6, my dream was to make it to the NBA. When I was 6, my mom had a stroke. So I want you to learn to spot a stroke fast. F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. I'm Paul George. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
My name is Lola Silvestri, and I'm going to be 95 this year. I was very independent. I fell, and I had to have Meals on Wheels. America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Dear John, I'm leaving. Uncontrolled high blood pressure is serious, and I can quit whenever I want. Why can't we get back to when you checked on me? I don't want to leave, but remember, when I quit, you quit. Sincerely, your heart.
Listen to your heart and don't let it quit on you. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range today. For help keeping yours at a healthy range, text PRESSURE to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. Take 1.
Behold the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the angry giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard, so you don't need to sell all your belongings and live in a commune.
These dungarees belong to all of us now, Tom.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman.
We need a new stuntman!
You just need FeedThePig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at FeedThePig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Fenix Media. Listen live and explore more great shows at fenixmedia.us.
I catch a lot of flack for not being, I don't even know what the right word is, but it's just fluffy around the spiritual stuff. But I think that as a human race, we personify things that we don't understand far too often. And that's where I stand. And so when I run into people, whether it's religion or whether it's like anything that is unknown, and they say they have it all figured out, my radar just goes off. And most of the time,
I also get uncomfortable.
Yeah, most of the time it comes off as just being a skeptic. And it's not that I'm a skeptic against something that is unexplainable. I'm a skeptic against the explained.
So let's, when we go back on, let's continue this conversation, because there's a couple things that I wanna.
Well, we can jump in right from here because
We're still recording, so go for it.
Okay, I didn't know if we were on a break.
Yeah, no, totally. We were on a break, but that was such a good in between. We'll leave that in there and we'll just kind of pick up from where we're at.
Yeah, because I hear what you're saying. You know, you're not necessarily doubting the possibilities.
Correct.
You're doubting the humanness that needs to explain and define and label.
Correct.
Things that actually are often beyond being able to be labeled or explained. And
Correct.
So when you hear people trying to take this and put it into a box, then doubt arises. But this is all about intuition, right? Mm-hmm. Part of intuition is that feeling, that gut. And animals live in the present moment. They don't have the frontal lobe that gets in the way and has to analyze and has to figure
much more instinctual.
Right. They live in the moment and they accept what's going on around them based on their senses. And I call it six senses because they do possess intuition. And so what I would want to explain to people like you, Jason, and that sounds like I'm putting you into a category.
No. And that's what I'm so fascinated about this. Like, and I could sit here and talk about this for forever. When you get two mindsets to find some equality, and then all of a sudden you start realizing, like, I'm not trying to refer to you this way, like the same thing that you were just, and trying to bridge that gap and open up the communication. Like, that's where, like, I get goosebumps and everything gets giggly and it's the best conversation.
So those goosebumps is one of your six senses telling you, yes, that you should pay attention to. Whereas other times you get, like, we call it the hair standing up on our back, or we just get this, like, it's almost like this big, energetic, whoa. And that's your intuition telling you that's not passing the smell test. Don't even buy into that. So those are all forms of intuition. Those are all forms of our sixth sense that animals are masters with, that are helping us to navigate our way through things that are in alignment with truth, and we all have our own truth, or things that are not in alignment with it. And when we get goosebumps, I call them angel bumps because it's huge validation for me. When I'm doing intuitive communication or intuitive work, I work with horses and wild Mustangs. And I will get goosebumps when I have gotten the right message, or when I'm sharing something with somebody, like something with an animal. Sometimes there's things that come up that an animal says, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, I am not saying that, but I have to, because I've made that agreement with the animal. And then I'll get flushed with goosebumps, and I'm like, all right, that is to be shared. You know what I mean? So you're already feeling those things, Jason. You don't need or want a label on that. And that's awesome. And we already have too many freaking labels in the world.
Way too many. Too many people saying that they understand too many things.
Agreed.
And I think that's where it really creates a closed-minded mentality on things. And that's, I got to be honest, that's a hard concept to explain to a lot of people when you say, no, I don't believe the way you believe, because frankly, sometimes I feel like I'm more open-minded. Like I think there's more beyond what you're saying or what you're thinking, or like all of this, whatever it is. And I'm not even talking about just this one conversation, but people get so hooked into their dedication to a belief, and they don't want to let that go. So even if that belief is supernatural, like moving on beyond that. Sorry, I could ramble on this for forever. This is your podcast, not mine.
Also, I mean, like, who's to define what is supernatural at this point? Sure. You know what I mean? It's like, it all is, in a sense, quantum physics is, to me, basically the supernatural, because it's beyond my comprehension of what I understand to be, because just my education didn't teach me quantum physics. So I think that, Jason, to your point, it's like, I don't think any one person has all the answers, but I think as a conglomeration of like a universal consciousness, together we have more answers than we probably think we do.
And I think our need to sit here we're sitting here together as the three of us, and we're trying to conceptualize that which is not able to be conceptualized on an intellectual basis. It's more of a feeling, and beliefs aren't just what you intellectually believe, but it's also what you feel, because if somebody says, well, I believe blah, 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 and you can feel things coming up inside your heart. We call that in spiritual realm, there's a mind heart, a heart. No, there's the mind's brain, the heart's brain, and the gut's brain. So we get that gut feeling that says, oh no, not going there. Or we get that heart feeling where your heart just opens up. And then the brain is going, I don't think we should do this. So there's 3 actual places that we can check in with ourselves and saying, do I believe what they're saying to be my truth? Does it pass my smell test in whatever way? Intellectually, can I wrap my brain around it? In my heart, does it feel like that's right? And in my gut, does that feel like that's a good belief system to take on? Because beliefs are crazy, you guys. We're born blank slates.
Right. Total blank slates.
Our belief system starts the minute our parents, our influencers, start
the culture around us.
They believe.
Yep.
So,
socialization, what we learn from other people when we're in preschool and kindergarten, how we learn to associate. This is a beyond fascinating topic.
I want to thank all of you for joining us on today's podcast. This is at the 1 hour mark. If you didn't catch it before this, there's actually almost a whole nother 45 minutes after this. Sylvia takes a pee break and comes back to us talking about all sorts of crazy things. A lot of it has absolutely nothing to do with dogs, but you learn some things that are going on in Sylvia's life and my life. And I got a feeling that you guys would be able to even do a breathing exercise with us that we do. So anyways, make sure to check us out on social media. Make sure to check Cindy out over on her website. Check this out, Sylvia. She's giving 10% off a 1 hour session with her.
I barely last 5 minutes with that woman. I was in pieces.
Yeah. So mention Dogish when you go over to heartsoulhorsemanship.com, and you can get an hour off of a session with Cindy and get your own reading like Sylvia's going to do here shortly. So
I already did. This is the end of the podcast. Oh no, wait.
Yeah.
This is the end of our podcast listeners on like Spotify and iTunes.
Right. We got a whole other one over on YouTube here in a little bit.
All right. Well, we got to go. We're busy.
Go check it out. We'll see you over there.
Cindy still.
All right. Thanks, guys.